Yeah, we are live. Hello everyone, and thanks for all those who have been able to tune in as we've been talking over the past week. Like in today's session, we have Patricia Acheampong, who will be sharing with us her journey of how she was able to make it to grad school with a second class lower. There is this perception that to be able to make it into grad school, you need a first class. So I thought it's possible to get someone who has been through the journey. And not only did she get funding for her master, she's currently doing her PhD. This is to just serve as an avenue for us to all learn and for people who have been applying and they've not been getting the necessary response. This could be an avenue for you to go back home to see what you are doing. Unfortunately, like I can't be the host for today because I have something to do. So this session will be moderated by my able-bodied Grenade, who will just take us through the session. And I believe that once you're in the hands of Patricia and Grenade, like you are secured because like they'll be giving you good info. So I'm wishing you all the best and feel free to ask all the questions and use this avenue to learn a lot because it will be fire having these two people. I know that we are going to do an amazing job. So I'm wishing you all the best and see you guys. Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
yourself.
Hey, I'm watching. Okay.
Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Road to Grad School. And you have a lot of questions that come up. How do I apply? Is my grade enough to get a scholarship? So today we have able Patricia, who has been through the system, who has been in and out. She's been through the process and has the idea of where and when to apply. So we are going to give her the platform to educate us and show us what to do, what not to do, the channel of communication, and everything that involves getting us funding to your scholarship. So hello, Patricia, and you are welcome to.
Hi, Grenade. Thank you for the opportunity once again. I think that about 2 weeks ago, we were on here and we had a very interesting conversation. And then Barbara thought it wise that we should have a specific conversation about this because then definitely there are people out there who have been seeking answers, or there are people out there who haven't been successful through that process. They yearn to go to grad school, but for some reason they have this barrier or limitation in front of them. So before we even get started, I'm just going to say thank you to Barbara, Aboagye, thank you to Daniel Senriku for making time with us today and for giving us this platform, because then I probably knew that one of these days or in the nearest future I was going to tell the story, or I was going to at least give people an idea as to what to do, but I didn't know it was going to be this soon or this sudden. So
Well,
I think that it has come at a good time because I'm sure that this will be, at least this platform will give someone a thing, one reflection or another, and that will also add to what they need to do, because it all has to do with guidance. If you do not have guidance, then we are not so sure how progressive you will be. So thank you to these guys for giving us this platform and for using their channel to educate mediums. Because this video will be there for a very long time.
exactly.
We are just going to try to put in, I'm just going to try to give as much, because I mean I have to try and put it out there.
So yeah, you've been told. Before we get into the questions and answers, can you tell us where you are, what school you are doing, like what school you are in, and how it's been so far?
Okay, so to begin with, I know that there are a lot of civil engineering students on this live session today. So will other people join us from all walks of life in the future and even today. But I'm specifically, we are civil engineering students, and Daniel, Barbara, and a host of many others who have joined us. And so my journey has from engineering, and then now I find myself in health. And so you realize how versatile the course is. The civil engineering course gives you an avenue to do a lot, unless, of course, you decide that you do not want to do academics, or you do not want to pursue further. But if you want to pursue further, there's so many avenues that you could go to. So I started off with my undergrad from I'm in Kuma University of Science and Technology. I was in the cohort between 2012 and I graduated in 2016. I did my national service as a teaching assistant and with the water department. I do not know if I should say it that way, but in civil engineering, there are so many different aspects that you could specialize in. And by the end of my 4 years, I was leaning more towards doing environmental engineering stuff. So I found myself being a teaching assistant for some of the engineering economy courses, and that office did a lot of washes, water sanitation and hygiene.
Okay, that's cool.
So I did my teaching assistantship from 2016 through to 2017. And then from 2017 through to 2019, I was in the United Kingdom doing my master's. So that was my second degree. So this was in environmental engineering. So I specialized in water and waste engineering. I mean, that was what I did because of the exposure that I had with the wash and all that. So I continued with that. And then along the line, there was an opportunity to, so the school in England, the faculty specifically, that program was for everybody, but they really concentrated on giving the opportunity to people from developing countries, because that course was engineered in such a way that you could work anywhere in the world, but the concentration was really for students coming from developing countries. And after that, they tried to find an opportunity for you back home so that you can give back to your community or you can give back to your country, because that's what
it was not like you're going to keep all the education.
No, that is what the sponsorship was about in the first place. Even though you get yourself in with your own abilities and all that, they expect you to want to be happy to give back. So the giving back process was what made me discover this whole new aspect of the environmental engineering that has this health component. And public health will do what medical and the doctors would do. So you find a lot of medical personnel doing public health as part of whatever skills and trainings they have gained from the pure medical school things they did. Because then with public health, you're trying to manage the health of populations at a time. But with medicine, you're doing an individual at a time. You're just giving that one-on-one. So I just realized that everything we do with water, sanitation, and hygiene has to do with preventing people from diarrhea, cholera, building structures that protect the environment with the sanitation aspect. So at the end of the day, you're locking in disease outbreaks and all that. So it's health. I found it and I was like, wow, this is interesting. So I'm just going to use my knowledge and skills that I have gained. So I'm doing public health doesn't mean that I'm not doing civil engineering. It is an aspect of civil engineering that I'm doing.
Yeah, that's one thing I realized that people don't, a lot of graduating civil engineers don't get that. Civil engineering is not only about structures, it's not only about highway. Like everybody coming out of civil engineering thinks, I'm going to go into construction, I'm going to go into highways. So there's also an opportunity to enlighten people about the diverse opportunities in civil engineering.
Yes. So I feel like civil engineering has to do with engineering the environment. And when you engineer the environment, you're engineering it for humans. And if the humans you're engineering it for are not healthy, then what are you engineering? You're engineering an environment to keep cool. The humans who are not healthy. So public health has a role to play in civil. I mean, just open up the way you think about civil engineering. Let's open it up because there are so many cross-cutting, interesting disciplines in there that you could actually bolt on. So so the other day, the theme that I put on for myself is create your own niche. Because you
Yeah.
realize that you can actually bolt on a lot of different things and still make it very relevant. So presently, I am doing public health. It's it's a PhD, but
Okay.
because I have so much. So this is one of the things I'm going to talk about on this call or on this live session. So because I have so much interactions behind the scenes with my admitters and with my incoming lecturers and all that, I hadn't met them. I just met them through the internet and the
Oh
school.
wow.
I had so much. I mean, that is one of the things that we have to start doing. You have to start. So that is how you start creating your uniqueness. So there are 1,001 people applying for admissions, applying
Yeah.
for a particular school. But how do
Exactly.
they even know Patricia before they know Patricia? How do they even meet Patricia before they meet? Like they met me before they met me, and it was so interesting because then it's more or less like going online and knocking on the doors of this
The
faculty member.
strangers.
Yes, because it's like they put out all of their information out there. They do that so you can reach them. You can reach them one on one. And when you
Okay.
reach someone one on one and you mention their name, like Dr. Mreku, when you just say Dr. Mreku, he feels like you've met him before. And he feels like because you have taken your time and gone out of your way to read about him and seeing that what he's doing is what you are interested in, they start to have some sort of interest in you as well. When you have interest in people, then they have interest in you.
Yeah.
So behind the scenes, I had communicated, and then they said, okay, because you have a background in engineering, you want to do public health. Usually, in the public health classrooms, you're meeting a lot of medical doctors. So we want to prepare you well for the journey ahead. And so we want you to take some of the coursework in public health so that you can get a proper jump start. So
Okay.
we had to talk about it, and then they had to direct me, they had to guide me. So the guidance is never ending. You're always, if you are happy and willing, there is people who hold your hands and open the doors for you. But if you
Oh,
do not give yourself an opportunity to be guided, then you can't even start on any journey. So this is how
okay.
my journey looks like.
Okay. So let's take this scenario. I'm a
Mhm.
freshly graduated civil engineer and I'd want to apply. I also have the you didn't write any, did you do any external exam, GRE?
Okay. So right from the beginning, I knew that there are a number of when we talk about somebody being qualified, there are a number of things. So when I looked on my tall list, the first one was not good enough. That tall list, the first one is your GPA or your CWA,
Yeah.
and mine was the lower. Even if I want to justify that it was 59.9, because that was what I finished with. I started from 51 point something. And then I
Oh,
had it at the end of my first year, I had a trail on top of that. I mean, how else can that get? So it
wow.
was really,
That was a challenging.
it was like I had to fight. I've never had a big fight in 4 years. I mean, I was just walking around, but I was fighting a lot in my head all the time. It was
Oh yeah, it was evident. You were all always around the place.
because I had to fight, and I had pressure from. I mean, between my parents, my dad knows that I will do well. He doesn't really need to see anything. He knows at the end of the day I will still do well. But my
Deliver.
mom is a skeptical one. And my mom is the one who gives you pressure. So I had pressure from home. I had to really pay for my research myself. When I failed fluid mechanics. When
Oh,
I made
okay.
a call, when I made a call home and I told my mom that, mommy, this is what has happened. I feel like I should have called my dad first. No, I'm telling you, I feel like I should have called my dad first because I was already feeling down and I needed somebody to get me out of the pit. But for me, what gets me out of the pit will not be the same thing for you. Because
Exactly.
for some
Everybody
for
has
somebody they need
their
calm
own.
words, they need rubbing at the back. But for me, it is hard words that got me out of the pit.
Okay.
My mom said, I don't care what you will do, just go and deal with it. What kind of shameful thing is that? How do you get a thrill? And I'm saying to my mommy, about 60%. And my mom said, about 60%. Are you justifying your drill?
Oh,
40% passed. Why are you not in? No,
why are you
she
not part of the 40? The African parents, do you have at the 40%? Do they have two heads?
that is what she said. She said, what are you telling me? Are you justifying that you have a drill and it's good enough? So I said, I'm going to, I was even fumbling at the point, at that point. And I said,
Yeah.
I'm going to, I want to make the conversation as real as possible so that everybody knows that it's not easy. I'm not just going to come onto this call and make it look like it's easy. It's not. It's either you are ready to do this for you and you alone, or you don't get anything. Even if you have a 4.0, nobody will hand over a scholarship to you if you don't want it, if you don't ask for it, if you don't knock on the doors. Nobody, even if you have a 4.0. So I feel like whatever anybody has, you just have to run. It's like a runner who fell down when the journey started, when they were on the running course, and then they fell off just at the beginning. So that was how the foundation was. It's like just before you even got started, you fell off. And if you fall off, will you stop running? You will run and make sure you finish the race. So that
Finish the race.
for me that was how it looked like. So she said, I do not care how you're going to do it. Make sure you clean that trail. And I said, okay, mommy, but I'm going to rewrite. Can I get some money? She said, get what? Oh, get just excuse me and don't talk to me about the trail that you want money. And she said, how shameful can you be? That's what my mom said. How shameful can
That must have been a tough time for
No,
you.
no, it was tough. How shameful can you be? How can you ask me for money to rewrite? I'm not paying for you to rewrite. I'm paying for you to do well. So just go and get it. And you know, when I have a call like that and my mom ends the call, it means she's very angry. So she just ended the call like that. And I looked and I was shaking inside. But you know me, when I shake, you won't see it. No, you
Yeah,
won't see it. I
it's tough.
mean,
It's
if
tough
it
skin.
begins to show, that's like defeat, you know. You have to go get it. So that was how it was. It started from 51 points, something I can't really remember that vividly, and finished with a 59.9. It was still a lower, you know. So, well, if we want to get into it, then we'll start from that point.
Okay. Yeah, so after graduating, how was it like? Did you immediately wanted to go back to school, or you wanted to pick up some field experience before going back to school?
Okay, so for me, at the point when I graduated, even when I was told that so the beginning of my journey was so shocking. When people were writing their names to be TAs, meaning I knew that TAs are first class students. So like me,
Yeah.
I was in the sister lab that day when Nehemiah was the teaching assistant that I took over from. I was in the sister lab that day when Nehemiah sent me a WhatsApp that then was Dr. Nyanko, now he's Professor Nyanko. Sanyaku is looking for me. He wants me to come to office. He wants to ask me something. And I said, hey, what trouble am I in? He said, well, you come. So I went into the office and then he asked me, he said he has seen my, and at that point I was surprised in January. He said he has seen my performance over time and he thinks that he wants me to be his teaching assistant for his courses. And I'm like, Doctor, I think that I'll think about it. No,
You
because
think
no, at that point I was confused because I'm like, I'm not a first class student. Why does he want me to be a teaching assistant? So the first person I will call again, can you guess who I'll call?
your mom?
I called my mom. So when I called my mom and I told my mom that teaching assistant, she said, you are lying. You are not. So why are they giving you teaching assistantship? So when I told her and she realized that it was true, she said I should take the offer. I shouldn't say no. So I went back the next day and I said, okay, I'm interested. So my journey started as a teaching assistant, but I didn't know whether I wanted to go to the field to do work or I wanted to go to school. Because then I've been told that you can't get a scholarship as a second class lower student. No, that was what I was told. But for me,
Okay.
for me, there's one thing I do. I listen to people, but I don't take everything people say. I
That's
listen
very
to people, but I don't take everything people say. I search for myself, I look for myself, and I ask a lot of questions. I ask till you can't you can't say no to me anymore. I'm that sort of person. So
yeah.
we went in, we did some work, we did some wash work, we did some publications, and I must say that please, if you can, take your final year dissertation seriously because that is my first publication. So I had a publication before going into academia, like before going to do my masters and all that. And that is what sets you apart from a lot of people because
Okay.
you finish your undergrad, you have a publication right after school. Wow, then it means you started well.
You're putting the work. Okay.
Yes, and when you apply like that, a lot of people maybe at that level do not have a publication. But we all had a chance to write a dissertation. But some people do not use their dissertation for anything. But for me, that was my breakthrough point. When I translated my dissertation into a publication, into a paper, and then I went to
Okay.
a conference in England to present it. And if you do a publication and you don't present it, it doesn't get published. So
Okay.
I had to make sure. So this was all guidance. I was that person who was willing. So everybody that was around me was also ready to guide me because they saw that this person is really, really hungry. She's really ambitious. Can
Okay.
we help? How can we help her? Okay, so
Okay.
for me, this conversation that we are having will be a guide for people. But for me, I got a lot of mentors in front of me, guiding me, saying, do it this way, do it that way. So I was more or less like a project.
Can you mention some of these guidance
So some of
mentors?
these guidance included professor saying that this your work is really interesting. It's in WASH and it has to do with sustainable development goals. Just let's work on the paper. And at that point, when he says let's work on the paper, his name will also come on the paper.
Exactly.
So he's using it to appraise himself. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Everybody.
Yes. So on the process, there was one question that I asked Professor. I was like, Professor, is there these sort of wash projects that you're doing? Is there anything else? Is there other projects you have that I can also feature in so that my name appears in? This was a simple question I asked.
Okay.
This question opened doors for me. I was like, are there other wash projects that I could even do data collection for, even on this hot sun? Like I want to do it. I want to do it. And he said, "Oh, that's really good. You want to do data collection?" Like I was like, "Yeah, I really want to do that." So he said, "Okay, I shouldn't worry. He'll find out and let me know." So I was working on my publication. I got a breakthrough with that. I had a publication at the end of the period before I started applying for schools, and that makes you an academic material to start with. And that makes people want to invest in you, especially if these scholarships are like research oriented and that kind of thing. So my first breakthrough was with my undergrad dissertation that a lot of us do not pay attention to. I translated it into a paper, and then I went to present it. It got published, and I put it on my CV. So
Okay.
it was on my CV, and all the other WASH projects. So I got another opportunity, even though I didn't get money from it. I mean, some of these things you won't get money. It's not about money, but it helps you to build your credentials on paper. Okay.
Okay.
So the next thing that came my way was there's this Professor Barbara Evans in University of Leeds in England. So whilst I was still in Ghana, whilst I was still doing my teaching assistantship, these were some of the things I was doing. So when I said, can I help on other projects? I got another one, but I was told that I'm not going to be given any money. There is no compensation. Will I do it? I'm like, okay, it looks more like voluntary.
Okay.
So then I'm going to put it under my voluntary category on my CV.
CV.
And then it was also WASH. So I have nothing to lose. So then it came in, and Professor Barbara Evans is one of the, at the time, I didn't know. I didn't know that she was one of the big shots in WASH. International.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about anything. The only thing I knew was that she had a student who was coming from England to Ghana to come and do research on WASH, and then I was supposed to be a liaison for her because of language barrier and because she wants to know the community she's going into. So the whole
Okay.
I was with the students and we were transcribing audios, we were collecting data on this hot sun. And when the student finished doing this work, we just had dinner one evening and we said goodbye. And I said, thank you for, she said, thank you for helping me. And I also said, thank you for coming. I didn't know the aftermath of that.
Okay.
3 months, 4 months down the line, I received an email from Professor Baba Evans saying that the student has finally put their dissertation together and then they have a working paper. And they want my name to feature on the working paper because, according to the students, I did all the data collection for her and I transcribed for her. And it is WASH and it is a sector that I work in. So she doesn't see why my name shouldn't come on that paper. So that now I'm getting 2 publications. But
how was the feeling like when you got the email?
I showed it to Professor because he was the one who brought in that. He was the one that brought in that link.
Oh, okay.
So he said, yes, say yes. That is a good one. You know. So then, but at the point when I applied, that paper was not ready. But I always put a caption on my CV that says working paper. Working paper means that you're still going through corrections and it's going through panels for acceptance. I mean, and someone will say, what if it doesn't get accepted? Anyway, they still know that you put in the effort, and that is even also good enough.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, these were some of the things that helped me to break through. Now, I know that I'm a second-class lower student. It's always at the back of my mind. And just like a runner who falls off the track when the race begins, and they still want to have a good placement at the finishing line, that runner will have to do extra hard work. And for me, this was all the things I was doing: my voluntary work, my publications, and then I didn't create a barrier. I didn't make myself a barrier that I'm a second class lower student. Let me be my corner. I'm a second class lower student. Let me stay in my one lane. I'm shy. I can't let anybody know that I'm applying for school and I'm asking for funding and I'm a second class lower student. Like I can't. You have to let somebody know, somebody to help you. You have to put yourself out there. You know, if you decide that you are shy and you don't want anybody to know, nobody knows. No, who will help you? Nobody knows. So for me, I put myself out there. I made it conversational. I talked about it. It was so hard for me to tell someone that I'm a second class lower student, but I had to put it out there because it's when people know and they see your enthusiasm and they want to help you.
Because you don't know where the help is going to come from.
You don't know where the help is going to come from, and you do not want to talk about it. Please, you have to open the conversation out. And then certainly you don't just go talking to anybody. You know, you have to find an academician who will definitely tell you you can still do it, or what you have can still take you. If you go talking to somebody who doesn't know like you, and they tell you you can't do anything with what you have and you are stuck, that is a different situation. But you always have to find the right person to talk to. So then I'll just really talk about having mentors when you are down with your undergrad, because even though we all do not get to become teaching assistants, there are students that lecturers know because they had
their contribution in class.
Yes, they had. I don't know where. I'm sure tech has that, like this office days, like the lecturer will say if you want to. I knew Dr. Nemo had that. Professor Donko had that. And I'm not sure about the other lectures. I can't really remember, but some of these lectures have office hours. These office hours, you can talk about, please, Dr. Nemo, can I get an internship? Please, Dr. Che, is there any internship that you think I could go on? I'm interested. I want to. And then they'll say, you won't get any money. It's not about money. No, yes, tell them you want to. You
just want the opportunity.
You just want to go 2 times a week or 3 times a week because maybe you may need funding for transportation and all that, and you do not have all that. You just can try and create your own style. Oh, I want to go 2 times a week. I'll go Mondays and Wednesdays. Okay. And then when you go apply yourself, because there was this internship that I did. And at the end of the day, I got 600 CDs. Like when I finished the internship that time, they put 600 CDs in an envelope and gave it to me. But I was not, I knew that there was no money. There was no money coming. But I knew
Coming,
how they were able to put 600 down for you. So you just get in, get motivated, and know that
yeah.
you're
When you
doing
say 600, that was in which year?
600 was in 2015
Okay.
to 600. That was like one of the internships that I ever did that I got something. That was like, I know that it was not much, but I was not expecting any money from anything, you know. And then they gave me a I asked for a recommendation letter. And whenever you do any internship, any voluntary work, and you can get a recommendation letter from who your supervisor is, please take it and add it to your portfolio. So you are building your portfolio right from the time you enter uni.
Okay.
And one of the things that I probably never did. I mean, and if I had a chance to go back, these are some of the things I would do. If I had a chance to go back, I would attend more conferences and build more networks. If I had a chance to go back, I would try and have at least one publication whilst I'm even still a student, because you do not know whether you want to do academics or you want to go to the field. But try
Yeah.
and get ready in such a way that it could take you anywhere. You can end up in the field doing some big shot project. You can end up in the classroom back again, still doing something you love. So you don't really know, but just get ready. Just
Okay.
put all your tools together and get ready, because you do not know where you're going to be, how it's going to take you, and all that. So,
Okay. So when you decided to pursue your master's degree, what influenced your school selection, and also what documents were you required to present? Coming from
yes,
somebody coming with a lower.
one thing too that I would say is, whilst I was a teaching assistant, with the cohorts at that time who were also teaching assistants, everybody was writing GRE. Even I was in the same. I shared a room with Barbara when we were doing assistant, and Barbara was writing GRE. So she would say, "Patricia, you're not going to write GRE." I'm like, "Okay, okay, I'm just going to get registered and I'm just going to get started." So I knew that definitely to get prepared and to get ready, there are some sort of exams and things you need to do. So I
Okay.
signed up for a GRE. I wrote a GRE, and then I got 300 and something, 300 something plus. The
Okay.
308 or 309 something over the total mark, which is 360, 360 or 350. I can't really remember. So this was this was about 5 years ago. This was in 2017, the beginning of 2017. One of the things I did, the first things I did was to write a GRE. So I have a GRE, but I've never used my GRE before. So
Okay.
I'm not using. I have a GRE, so I'm prepared for,
Okay.
for that kind of situation. If I'm asked,
It requires.
I have it. I can show it. You know, so preparation is a lot of things. Preparation looks like a lot of things. Preparation looks like building your CV a little bit, building your social skills a little bit, networking a little bit, writing some of the exams you may need or may not need a little bit. So it's more, sometimes it's capital intensive, you know, sometimes, but I mean, you have to try and invest in yourself like that, otherwise you get nowhere. So I had GRE, but um, I didn't use the GRE in my application because, first of all, there was opportunity. Also, I saw that there's a Loughborough University. So Loughborough University does a competence in WASH. They have the
Oh,
Data Engineering Development Center. But I heard about Loughborough University through Nehemiah, who was the teaching assistant before me.
okay.
And then I heard about Cranfield. So there were specific universities that did that WASH thing. So now at this point, I've been very specific. I know that I want to do environmental engineering and it is WASH. And I'm just going to select schools that
In
give
that lineup.
that does WASH. So I now know. And then I also heard that Loughborough University doesn't give full funding. I heard about that to the point that I almost didn't even apply. Then I said to myself, we may not give funding, but I want to check for myself. You know,
Oh,
people say one thing and it's another thing. So
exactly.
you also have to try and break that barrier of just listening to what people have said. After hearing what somebody says, try and also put yourself put yourself on board and see what comes out from your little effort. So I
Okay.
had all those discouraging things, and then I even heard that somebody has had first class, and last year they applied and they didn't get any funding. So me, my lower year, I have to sit back and I have to drink my tea, like my tea right now. I had to drink my tea and think about myself. But I said, let me try. So at the end of the day, I went back to professor and I said, I'm applying for schools. And then he said, what schools do I have in mind? And I mentioned those schools and I said I also know that Labra has, because at this point I knew about Labra University. And he said,
Okay.
okay, I should apply. And when I finish applying, I should let him know. That's what he said. So I applied, I put in my application, and then I put in my publication. That was the biggest thing I had. My GPA was not looking nice, but I had to put it in. And then at that point, they wanted IELTS.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then and then after writing GRE, I didn't want to write anything else. So I didn't do any IELTS exams, nothing.
Okay.
But what I did was that, so this is another skill you should also develop. You should also try to have a lot of background conversation with your admission office and all that. If they say,
Okay.
do you have English
Proficiency.
IELTS? You said no. Then you ask them, I have English proficiency and all of my courses, send them an email. All of my courses were conducted in English for the 4 years. And then in Ghana, like tell them all those things. They know, but they want to see how resilient you are as a candidate, because grad school is about resilience. The hard work there, they want to see what skill you have aside what your GPA is saying.
Okay.
Mhm. So now I said these things I can show proficiency. I can show that my courses were conducted in English. Is it good enough? Then they said, okay, we'll get back to you. So they said we'll get back to you. The next thing they're asking me for is, can I show my because I know that I won't be the first person applying from Ghana. They've had students apply.
From yeah.
So they have a system.
Yes.
So they are asking me, what did you score for English in your WASI? At that point, I was like, huh?
All the way back to Wasi.
I'm telling you, and then good for me. I had an A in English for the WASI. So I said, okay, thank God. I'm just going to show them. And on that WASI transcripts too, the results looked so good. There were so many A's there and some B's. So they're like, okay, we're going to go. So we can actually have an idea of who the student is. I mean, she could do well if we give her the chance. But they were just looking for the English. I don't know whether they were just looking for the English, because sometimes these people, they can be very tricky. So when I submitted that, and they said, okay, you had an A in English, so then you do not need any IELTS. Yes. So that was how I took that off from whatever they needed. And then my publication, my GPA, that was the English thing, and then my recommendation letters. My
Okay.
recommendation letters. So I took recommendation from few people at the time. So I took recommendation from Dr. Nemo. And what Dr. Nemo wrote in that recommendation can get somebody to grad school. I took recommendation from Professor Yanko, and what he also wrote there can push you. It can really take you. And then I took one from Professor Donko that time, and what he also wrote made all the difference. So your recommendation letters, I mean, it can change the game for you. And
They are more of door openers for you.
I mean, and it's like I just read some of the things they put in there, and I'm like, these people do they know me like that, or it's formality or what? Because then they can really take you somewhere. And I'm not sure you come to your professor that you want a recommendation, he writes bad things. I'm not sure. I mean, they are definitely going to put in words and make sure that it takes you wherever you want to go. So those letters really made all the difference. And the voluntary work that I had done, because
Okay.
aside going to the application portal to put in my details and the school picking it up. The specific department had a one-on-one. I had a one-on-one with one of their admitters, like one of the final sayers.
Was it like a video call or like a...
It was like that time. It was like a Skype call, something. I think it was.
Okay.
And then they wanted to know. They were so particular about what voluntary work have I done, what community-based work have I done in line with WASH.
Okay.
People were asking, and at this point, I didn't know that Professor Barbara Evans was an external examiner for Loughborough University, and I didn't know.
Wow.
So on that call that day, I said, this is my publication. I went to do data collection in so and so school. This was WASH, blah, blah, blah. And then I mentioned that I had a liaison for Professor Barbara Evans from England, University of Leeds. And they were like, oh, yeah, that's so good. I mean, when I was saying that, that was when that was so good training. And I didn't know why they kept saying, yeah, that was so good. So later on, it was later on that I found out that Professor Barbara Evans has a link with my department in Loughborough University. See how the thing turned around. Like, I was just going up and down, zigzag. Like, I don't know.
The power of networking.
So the network was there. You see, that's why I always talk about networking. So this were the thing. I feel like that Skype call, if they didn't have that Skype call, I do not know what my faith would be. But when they had that call, they found out what voluntary work I had done. They found out that I had a publication. They said, okay, then we're going to give you a scholarship. We're going to pay your fees for you so that you can come and do this course, because we've seen that you can give back to your community. For them, it was about giving back to the community. Because when we give you this opportunity, you give back, because we've seen some of what you've done, even at this undergraduate. So let's give you the opportunity. So voluntary, I feel like voluntary took me in, recommendation took me in, the networks, the one or two networks I had built also got me in, and even the GPA or my average then was also lurking in the shadows. But these were the things that really took me in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when you got the waivers and all the other things had to do with the funding, how was the reaction? How was the feeling like?
You know who won't believe, right? You know who
Yeah, exactly. The mom would probably be lying.
Misha Davis is a skeptic. She won't believe anything. So I mean, I couldn't believe it. That was for me when I'm in shock. I don't make a call. I just sit down and I'm wondering, like, how did this happen? Like I was just shocked. Like I was just there, and I had to take it in. And then now I called my mom and I said to my mom, I'm getting ready to go to school in England. And she said, who will pay that fees? We are not getting scholarship, and we are not funding you. Like, you didn't do well, so we are not funding you. You didn't get a first class or a second class. You didn't even get an upper. This is how she says it. She didn't even get an upper. We're not funding you. We can't. We won't do that. Then I said to her that I've been funded, so you do not need to fund me. She said, who funded you? With your lower, who funded you? So she didn't believe till I sent her snapshots of the emails that I had received, the little video conference call we had, the outcome of it.
Oh, okay.
And she couldn't believe it. I was like, how did you get this? And she believes that it's just God who did it, because then it's not my average or it's not any of those things, because can't take. Okay. But I feel like looking at it logically and chronologically, there was some sort of effort or some sort of adding value to what I had.
Exactly.
I mean, I feel like if I just didn't do anything, if I just didn't do any voluntary works, publications, asking what I could help with, what impacts I could make for other people, I'm not sure that I would have gotten any funding. The first funding that I got, I'm not sure I would have gotten it.
Okay, so someone in the comments is asking, we KNUST, we do CWA, but in other countries they do GPA. So how is the conversion done like?
So the conversion for the UK is they take on whatever you have. They do 2 point. They do it just like I think the tech one, they won't ask you to transcribe your they won't ask you to take your transcript through another system.
Okay.
For the UK schools, they won't ask you for that. But for the US schools, you're going to take your transcript to WES. That's World Education Services. You're going to pay
Okay.
some money and they're going to transcribe. And when they transcribe, that GPA that looks 59.9. When they transcribed mine came to a 3.20 or something for the US
Okay.
one. It really
Wow.
came. So I feel like tech also uses a system that sometimes looks like they are stressing you out or they are pushing you so hard. But when you take it to the world standard, KNUST has really, I mean, most students out here are from tech, like their tech materials, a lot of them, because then they are doing well out here. Because when they transcribe, people's like GPAs look so good. Like you won't even
Oh,
believe it. It looks really good. So that is the two systems for you.
okay. So since you didn't use your GRE, what other waivers or pointers would you give to people since you prepared yourself but you didn't use it? So
Okay,
if
so
you to do it
for
again, would you still
example,
go through the same process or you do
right. So
something different?
For the US one, I had to go through a totally different process. It was different, and it was a whole journey. I feel like some of the things that I did for the US one, people would have to push themselves a little bit to do what I did. But in case you're not able to push yourself, you still have a chance to still communicate, link people up on LinkedIn, and still send emails and ask a lot of questions. But before I even got started for the US one, I took a whole trip to, because now I've started to find out that I want to do public health. Now I looked online again, and then okay, I was going to go for a conference in North Carolina, Galen School of Public Health. There's a school in North Carolina, and they have annual conferences. Because for me, one of my biggest things is because I know that I want to be in academia and I want to move on. I keep doing publications, and whenever you put your work together, you have to go onto a platform or you need a space to present your work, and that is when it gets published. So at this point, when I finished my master's from England, I was putting my dissertation together into a paper, another one, and because I know that that is one of the things I need to do. So I quickly went on and I started that. I used that formula again, like to start and see how it will go. So I had my publication put together. I looked for a conference. By this time around, I said I was going to go into the US and see what is there because I had read so much about all the opportunities in there. But now I also needed to come face to face with some of the opportunities I have seen, give myself a chance to feel, give myself a chance to have a conversation with faculty and all that. So I went on a whole journey. I left Ghana, I went to the US. That was in 2019. I attended a conference, North Carolina, and then there was an exhibition in CDC. So I went to Atlanta in the US, and the exhibition date was just around, will just happen after the conference that I was attending in North Carolina. So then again, I know that the best thing I know to do is send emails, send a blast, like a back to back till you answer. You don't understand who's sending you emails. So I linked up with I think the facilitator or something for that exhibition in CDC. And then I said, okay, I'm from Ghana, blah blah blah. I'm going to go for a conference here, but I'm going to come to your exhibition. So I got that sort of conversation behind the scenes. And then a friend of mine from my course in England, he's American, Jake Pitts. So Jake Pitts said, once you're coming to the US, it will be good to go to Emory. Just visit Emory because Emory is just close to the CDC where you're going. You cross the road and that's Emory Rollins School of Public Health, really good school. So it would be nice to go out there and have a conversation and see if having a degree in civil engineering brought you an opportunity to do public health. Because I needed somebody to have that one-on-one conversation with. Because now when I was having the conversation with people back home, they were like, public health is not for you. Public health is not for you, for medical people and all that. So now but I knew that I had seen something online And all the things I saw online is contrary to what people are telling me. So now I needed a stronger hand. I needed somebody to truly, truthfully, or to truly look me in the face and tell me that you can do public health irrespective of what you have from your foundation. So that was what made me that was my biggest motivation to go on that trip. Did North Carolina, came down to Atlanta, went for the exhibition, met whoever I was communicating with over the internet. I had a good time. I learned so much. It opened me up to new experiences. And then I went to Emory. But before I went to Emory, I sent emails and I made sure that I was going to meet somebody when I go. And before I got there, they had a whole um, envelope for me that had a lot of materials. My name was written on it. I was treated like a special guest. Excited because
Okay.
I'd actually spent time to let them know that I like their school and I like their course. And they were also interested in me because I've already said if you show interest in somebody, then they show interest in you.
In you. So you really put in the effort to get to know the
You
people.
put in the effort to communicate. Communicate till something happens.
All right.
Communicate till they can't reject you and say no to you. So I went down to Emory, met that professor because we scheduled an appointment and then the
So
time.
all this was during your national service.
No, this was 2019 when I had finished my England, my second degree.
Oh, okay,
And then
okay,
now
okay.
I had come onto the field, I was doing some work, and then I was trying to retract my steps. And then I decided that, okay, I'm working a little bit, I'm just giving myself a few months, and just going to go back to complete this. But I needed to find out if truly, I needed to redefine what I wanted to do for my PhD. So that was one of the things I was looking to do on the field work. When I was giving back, I was also looking at what I can do next. Okay, so it was a win-win for me, giving back and looking at what you can do next. Now, with that information that I gathered was what took me, my next publication was in the pipeline. I went out there to the US, went for that conference, came down to Atlanta, went for the exhibition at the CDC because all these things are public health related. So I was actually finding out. I was actually investigating. I mean, is this thing the right thing to do? When people ask me a question, I need to answer properly. So, in order to answer properly, I need to come face to face with who can actually give me information as I wanted it. So, I went down to Emory. That was where the conversation began. I mean, I had a conversation with that professor that I was communicating with over the internet. And then I told them they knew everything about me before I was coming, obviously. And then they said these are the couple of things you can do with your first 2 degrees. You could always do public health as you want. And then I asked about opportunities in Emory. And Emory had a lot of opportunities. I gained admission with Emory, but Emory, the fees is too high. Private school, and then the funding was also not like full. I mean, the funding was so scanty, like too little, and it was just going to put a lot of pressure on whatever I wanted to do. So I also had that conversation with that professor and said, okay, this admission thing has gone through. So after that conversation, I had to come back, do my homework, put in my application for the school. It came, again, admission, but now the funding was tough. Private school, fees too high, no full funding. So I had to rethink everything. But I had to ask the professor, I said, what would you recommend? What do you think I should do about this situation? Because I really have the interest to do this next thing, to do this public health. And he said, okay, you know what? It would be nice to look into schools in New York. And I asked him, why New York? And he said, in New York, there are a lot of state schools. And state schools are owned by the state and they're not as high. And they have all the facilities and they have all the funding and they have all the equipment. And I even know someone. So then again, my network was expanding. I was linked to a doctor in this present school that I am in, State University of New York is in Albany. So that professor in Emory. So see what my effort has given me. it has given me a link to somebody who knows someone who was going to put me in the hands of someone who would make sure that whatever I wanted to do will go through or will sail through.
So you were basically building your own network of.
That's how this has happened. So now the funding is not enough or is not forthcoming with Emory. But what can you do next? Doesn't mean that this is the end of the road for you. No. So let me put you into the hands of an able person in SUNY, and then they're going to help you. So
Okay.
I started a whole different conversation with this doctor, professor in SUNY, introduce myself, put in all the things that I had done. Okay, and then my experience with that CDC exhibition baffled a lot of these guys. They were like, "You came all the way from Ghana and you went to an exhibition and you went for a conference. You really are so ambitious." I mean, these sort of things. So that was what got me in on that next application process. So I had to stop the Emory one, and then I began the SUNY one just because the funding was not enough. And then I got in, put in all my documentations. And then with that one, because it's like a PhD or it's higher education, they were looking for writings that I had done. And thankfully, I had like 2 publications and then even a third one that was almost under review and all that. So it made me look so ready and so prepared to go on the journey of continuing my academic work. And then I got funding to continue and to go on. And that is how we are here now.
Okay. So for your second degree, that's the master's, how many schools did you apply and what was the
Um,
feedback like?
okay, so I applied to Loughborough, I applied to Cranfield, and I applied to another university that was in London. Yeah, but I didn't really hear much from the university that was in London. I don't really remember what school this was. So it was
So
basically just two of these schools. I'd narrowed it down so much to what I wanted to do because I looked at the curriculums they offer before I even applied. I just didn't apply. So you realize that because you're looking so much into the schools before you apply, you naturally cancel out some of the schools automatically. Some of these schools just
so were you accepted into this two, all the two, or was just the one
okay,
that paid
so
you?
for the Cranfield one, I was accepted but no funding.
Okay.
There was no funding. But for the LAFA one was when I went on that video conference call and then it was like all the things you have volunteered in and community work and all that. So let's give you the funding. So that was how I got into LAFA. And the LAFA University too, Professor Napa has done some work with them already. So when they saw his recommendation, they were like, this is Kwabena. Like, they call him Kwabena. This is Kwabena. This is Kwabena's student. I mean, like, there was some sort of conversation behind the scenes. I don't know what they were saying, but then, I mean, it all comes together.
Okay.
So,
All right. So what was the hardest part for you in this entire process, getting the school? What's the hardest part?
for me, up until the time that I put in my applications and asked so much questions and had a lot of back and forth conversation with my advisors, I was my own barrier. I was my own barrier because I thought that I wouldn't get anything. And I thought that it was going to be, I'm not a first class student, so nobody's going to fund me. So behind the scenes, I was just like, I applied for schools, but I just did it because then maybe a lot of people were applying for schools, and I also wanted to check it out and all that. I wasn't so confident and so sure at that point. But when I just saw the responses that were coming with the applications I had done, that was the beginning of a shift in my thinking and in my mindset. And there was also a period of waiting. I mean, whether you like it or not, and waiting is painful. If you have to wait for somebody at a bus stop, if they say, wait for me, 30 minutes, I'm coming.
I'll be
Waiting.
there in 5 minutes.
And it's the most painful thing. And when you put in these applications, sometimes it takes time. Sometimes you have to check it with an email and make sure you're even thinking whether your internet tripped. And for that matter, your application didn't get in because nobody's sending you any emails. Nobody's responding to you, and you have to follow up. That whole process of waiting is like is really hectic, like really draining. You don't know what to expect. Your fate is in the hands of someone, and you're asking whether you're good enough. Will you make it? I mean, that whole process of waiting. And if you sometimes it's not like sometimes applying for schools in the United Kingdom, you do not need to pay for your application or I don't know whether it has changed now, but then you don't need to pay for anything. But coming into the US, it's like you need capital. Like you need to put in money to do your application. You have to pay for words, transcribing. You have to apply for your transcript from tech, and that one to take so long. When the school words will take your transcript directly from tech. I mean that whole network. They're thinking, hey, will it get there on time? And I need to make sure that my application is the application closing date is not near. You have to give yourself a lot of time, and you have to have some sort of funds to begin with. Because I know most people like to go to the US, and when you want to go to the US, you have to have these, you have to have a budget beginning to begin with, just to make sure that you are on course, you are ready to fund yourself and make sure it goes well. Yeah.
Okay. So we've been talking all along. Let me give
I've seen someone ask about statement of
purpose. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't add that to my list, please. I'm sorry that I didn't talk about statement of purpose. It was another big thing. In my statement of purpose, the last part of it, I actually acknowledge the fact that my foundations, or I actually acknowledge the fact that I didn't start on a good life footing in my undergrad work.
Okay.
And I tried to shine a little light on um, why that could have been. And then automatically, if you look at my performance over time, it's like this. It just keeps moving up. So then I had to make it clear that I had to make them know that at least, even though I didn't start right, getting
We
on
need to put in the efforts.
was tough. But at a point, I was getting averages that were so high. I think my third year was like when I really got high averages, like for 2 semesters. And then the final year, the first semester, I got a good one, and the last one dropped a little bit. So I feel like I had to shine light on that curious moment, that moment that made everything so like different. Because now I was increasing a lot, but because my foundations were so like shaky and all that,
Yeah.
yes. So I had to make them always. I had to always draw their attention to the fact that they should look, they should look back at my transcript. They should look back at it. Even though I didn't start right, I actually like I had to say something. Mm, After putting all my community work and all my publication and all the impact it will make and all that, I have to still not pretend as if I don't know that my the rate is low. I had to make them know that I know that and I did something about it and I worked hard. And for that matter, if I'm given another opportunity, I will work hard. So I talked about it. Don't shy away from talking about what could have been better.
Okay. All right. So let me address some of the questions people are bringing up in the comment section. So, Duke, yes, it will be available to view anytime, even after this live session. So, you can subscribe to the channel, and also you get the notification when new videos are coming up as well. And also, Ernest was asking, can a first class student having a degree in statistics go into public health?
You are the one. You are the one that public health is looking for. Biostatistics. You could do biostatistics. You could also do a competence in epidemiology. You could look into it.
Okay.
Public health deals with a lot of data analysis. So they're looking for a lot of statisticians. A lot. A lot. I mean, you're the one. You're the one they're looking for. Yeah.
Okay, so NS, as you can hear, so you can start the application
Think no
process. You
further.
can
Think no
research
further. Just go for
if
it.
it's a field you want to go into, you have the green light to start making the research and applying to the schools. Um, So you can keep your questions coming in, and we'll address them as and when they come. So one person is asking for your. Are you on LinkedIn, Patricia?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So as Patricia Acheampong.
Yeah, Patricia Acheampong. Yeah.
Okay. So Holy Spirits.
Yeah.
Today's a
So
Sunday, so we welcome the Holy Spirits. So, yeah, Patricia is on LinkedIn with Patricia Champon. I'm also on LinkedIn with Daniel Semreku. So,
yeah.
when you see you want to reach out. Yeah, for me, I'm not in the academics. I'm a civil engineer in a dredging industry, which is also different. It's not the normal civil engineering. It's part of the engineering
Yeah.
industry, but it's not well known. So people don't really know about it. We'll probably address it one of these days. So if you want to reach out more about it, I'm also on LinkedIn and on Twitter as Danielum. Okay. So Patricia, when you got accepted in let's talk about the masters. How was the funding like? Was it a
Okay.
full scholarship or
So for in England, one of the things that you rarely find is your course has been fully sponsored. So for me, I got my fees were paid. All of my fees, £20,500 in tuition was paid.
impressive?
So yeah, it was paid 20,500 hands down slash. So when you check my account balance, I always had zero. I always had zero there. I didn't owe the school. So it was paid before I got in. So there's this thing when you gain admission um, to a school in England, they have something called CAS. That is confirmation of acceptance of studies form. And that CAS is actually prepared by their Homeland Security. And then they know that you are going to apply for a visa with that. And on that CAS statement, they will actually show you how much you have to show at your interview when you go for a visa. And when that my CAS came, it was 0 0. There was nothing to show. Like I could decide that for my fees, it has been paid. Now, that is tuition. So I got a scholarship, but there was a caveat to it. On the call, they asked me, so if we sponsored all of your fees, can you take care of your maintenance? Maintenance is you taking care of your own food, your own clothing. I mean, for books, there were libraries you could always get books from, which was going to be little to no fee, so that was not a big deal. So they wanted to know whether I could take care of my housing, my accommodation, and my food. And for that, I had to tell them that I don't know, and I had to ask my sponsors. My sponsors were my parents, those people trying to shy away from me because I had a loan and all that. So I had to tell them that I was going to give them a response first thing the next day. So I had to look into that. So that was hanging for moments. So I went back, had a conversation, and then when I told these guys that £20,500, I was having a video call that day with my mom, and my dad was also somewhere there. And when I said £20,500 was going to go towards my tuition, my dad was resting in his chair. When he heard the amount, he woke up and he sat down. He said,
There was fear and panic.
yeah, they were like, who doesn't know you and who wants to pay all this amount on your head? What did you tell them? Wow, you must have really told them something for them to want to pay this on your head. So because my father heard that, he said, these people have outdone themselves. We are going to support you with your accommodation and your maintenance. We will support you. For this amount they are paying, who are we? We are your parents. We can help you. Who will help? Like, we will help you clean that. So that fee was big. I mean, and, but the other things were manageable. Like I managed it. I was looking at how much that was, and how much you have to pay for your own self to stay and eat. I mean, I feel like they considered me and they helped. So this was how it was. It wasn't tuition was taken care of, and I'm sure that £20,500 is a lot of money, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
A
it's a
lot.
lot.
So we paid all that. They paid all my tuition, but the rest of the accommodation, maintenance, and all that I had to do with it. So that was one thing. And then even with that, those who came after me, I know a couple of them. I know one of them who got funding from GNPC with accommodation. She got fully funded by LabGraph for that course. Or they paid her tuition, and then she applied for funding internally. But you know, in Ghana, if you don't know somebody, if somebody doesn't hold your hand, that sort of thing is so difficult. So she definitely also had a good network that helped her get all the funds she needed for her accommodation, for her clothing, and all that. So there's money in the system, but network, network.
Okay, so how was the journey like from your finishing your master's program to starting your PhD?
So finishing my master's program, starting my PhD was not smooth because of COVID, especially I'll say because of COVID. I had to start a year after I had planned to start. So when I came to the US in 2019, I was going to return in January 2020.
Oh, okay.
And then for some reason, we had about COVID and all of those sort of things. And then now we started to um, change the date. Like the school started also giving different dates and saying all sort of things about COVID. And so I didn't get started immediately. I did some work which really helped me. I built an experience in field work. It was a really big project that I got on with UNICEF, and that also gave me a good recognition, got a good recommendation at that. So that was what I did after my second degree. I worked a little bit. I attended a conference. I did another publication. I exposed myself to what there is on the other side, public health. Came back, had to wait for COVID to um, the tension, the fear and panic to subside and make sure that I was still alive to continue my PhD when the time came. And that was how we got in after the ban was lifted a little bit, 2021. And that's how it is.
Okay, so was the application process like the same as for the PhD, the same as when you were applying for the master's program?
Okay, for the PhD, you have to show a lot of um, writing work that you have done. Mm. As I've said, I didn't know that I was setting myself up for the future when I did that first application for my undergrad. And then I went on to get to another chance to have my name in the second publication with that volunteering work that I did that I thought I had worked for free, but at the end of the day, it wasn't for free because my name appeared on that paper. And then this third one that I went to North Carolina to present. So all these writings, I had 3 whole writings. So I put all of it in, and then I put all my application links in for them to also go and have a look. So I think that also made a big difference. My experience with going to CDC, that they like versatility. They like to see a unique student, but I'm not sure how many. The time that I even applied, I'm not sure how many people had civil engineering. I don't know. I'm not sure how many people had my combination who apply. I don't know if you get what I mean. I say
Yeah,
combination, I mean having another from civil engineering, a
in
master's from
public health.
a master's from engineering, and then doing all that kind of exhibition and publication, all one person. So
Yeah.
it was really huge. It had to be huge for them to allow me to get in. Or else if I didn't have any support systems, I'm not sure I would have wanted this PhD. I have,
So does that mean you added your CV as part of the documents when you were
yes,
applying?
yes, for you add it. There's a part that will say upload all your write-ups that you've done. Upload your CV, your current CV, upload your even that one, they will not ask you to upload your recommendations. They would ask you to put your recommenders IDs, as in like their email. So they'll connect with them directly. So it's not like you, even at the PhD level, you're not now going to bring in letters. You connect with them. And then they have them fill a whole form. And um, some of I think 2 of my recommenders then sent me an email. Because now I had recommenders from England. I had recommenders from
Okay.
Ghana.
So you had built yourself a network of people.
Yeah. So they will send an email to your recommender and they'll send a whole form that asks questions, specific questions, and your recommenders are going to fill it in. And at the end of the day, they put it all together and then they see who we are about to admit. Is she competent? Can we allow her? The recommendation for the PhD is quite different. It's quite a little bit different from what you get for the masters one. They have to write it for you, upload it, upload. I'm sure even for the masters now these days, people do not even write for you. You have to give your recommended ID for them to connect with the recommender by themselves. I'm sure that's how the system looks like. It's not just for PhD, I think so. So
Okay.
that's
Okay. Holy Spirit is also asking, can you recommend some related to environmental engineering? Some schools related to
some
environmental
schools
engineering.
related to environmental engineering. As for the US, I feel like there's so much. There are so many schools out there. In England, I know of University of Leeds. I know Cranfield. I know Loughborough University. These are the ones that I know, but that doesn't mean that is what it is limited to. I'm sure there's so many schools out there. And for the US, um, I won't say if I check right now, there's so many schools that will come up, but because the US, I had my specific concentration, which was public health. So
Okay.
all the schools I'm looking for are just public health related. But I mean, there's so much opportunity, so many schools, so much funding. You just have to look into it.
Okay. So how was the funding for your PhD different from the funding for your
Okay,
MS?
so for the PhD, what happens is that for the England one, I never did a studentship or assistantship or anything. My fees was just paid before I got in, and I didn't do any work um, that time to defray the cost. No. But for the US, you get assistantships, graduate assistantships, student assistantships, internships, and then those internships, so the packages look different. Some internships will pay your fees and give you stipend. Some internships will also just pay you an amount of money every month that caters to your accommodation, your fees, everything. So the packages really look different. But I specifically got a student assistantship that pays the fees and it gives me a stipend that I believe in. So that is
Okay. So we have another question. This is coming from Nana Kojo. He says he wants to do a second degree in French in translation and conference interpretation, but he has applied for more than twice, but it keeps proving futile. So if you can give him any pointers or what steps he should take, maybe he's not doing something right.
okay. So Nana Kojo wants to go to school specifically in France. Is that what he's saying?
Yes.
And I'm just really wondering if Nana Kojo is on the call, can he shed a little light on why he wants to just look into France? Because then there are other opportunities in other countries. If France is not giving you the go ahead and time is ticking, time is money, and you need to get it moving. I don't know if he wants to look into other exciting, other interesting countries. And
Mm.
I don't know what steps he has taken, all the steps he has taken. I don't know all the qualifications that he has that allows him to get in easily. So, you know, I am a graduate and looking forward to having a second degree in France in translation, conference interpretation, international relations. I've tried and applied for this two courses more than I want to read his full, but it keeps going to top. Okay, so I'm sure you know why you want to go to France, and I don't know whether you want to link up with anybody from faculty. If you're doing this and it's not working, you need somebody to hold your hands. I won't even sit here and pretend that I didn't get people holding my hands and guiding me through this process. So if you're still doing this on your own and it's not working, maybe you want to connect with anybody from your faculty that knows you, remembers you, that you can have a one-on-one conversation with and let them give you a lead. Let them put in a word for you. I mean, that is if you know somebody who can connect with another person. or you probably need to check why they didn't let you in. I don't know whether they gave you reasons. I don't know whether they gave you reasons why. If they gave you reasons why, then it looks like you may probably be able to work on one or two of them and try again. If they didn't give you reasons why, you may want to spread your net so wide because there are a lot of fishes in the sea, and maybe France won't be just the only place for you. There's so many other countries that are looking to have you on board. So the net, like spread out your tentacles, let it be so wide, and then see if you could connect with faculty, see if you could talk to anybody who could talk to another person who could get you on board, and see if um, there is a reason why in your denial, whether there's a letter of denial or whether there's an email, or probably write back to them and ask them what you can do better to get in because you're so interested in their program. Because I've already said to you, get interested in these schools, and then they get interested in you. And there was also one thing that I've not said with the US application, and I feel like with all other application processes, when you get an idea of what school you want to get in, the next thing you want to do is to visit the faculty page. Now, you probably may not have an idea exactly where you want to go with your master's at that point, but just go into faculty and read about the works that some of these faculty members have done. Show an interest in one or two of them, link up with them behind the scenes, and let them know that you have applied for a school. And is there, you've seen another important thing, check what projects they have running at the moment. Read about it, build a conversation around the projects that you're doing. That is because at this point, you have seen about 8 or 10 faculty members and you have chosen who you have chosen because you're interested in them to start with. So if there is a project or a research you are running, you're definitely interested. That is why you've chosen them. So you read a little bit about it, find out exactly what they're doing with that project, and then hit them with a big a recognition email. Let them know that what you're doing, you are an avid admirer of their work, and you really love to be part of this impactful work they're doing, for which you have actually observed them from afar. You can even say you knew about them since you're doing your undergrad, and you probably really didn't even mean that. And you just have to, because at this point, you've seen something that is interesting for you. The point is that thing you're doing is interesting for you. I mean, so once it is interesting for you, make it aggrandize it, like shine light on what they're doing that is interesting for you, and hit them and let them know that you're looking at their work. Because for you to refer someone to their work and for you to have a conversation about the work they're doing presently, it means you've looked into them, and people like that. And if for some reason they can't help you, you can ask them, what do you think? What would you recommend? Can you link me up to another person in another school network?
Okay, so all right. So before you go, do you have any pointers that you want to put across for anybody trying to apply to PhD master's program?
Mhm, okay. So what I would say is that there was something that I wanted to say at the beginning, and then I just remembered. So I really did this thing really later on, but I feel like if we are having a conversation like this, and the conversation has to be an impactful one, it is impactful because of all the things that we are talking about. So I feel like at this juncture, one of the things that we would all like to do, every one of us on this call, is to want to find out what our strength is. And in finding out what your strength is, it's not by just looking in the mirror. There are tools online that you can use to learn about your strength. And I bet you that tool online gives you a true reflection. It gives you the top 5 of what your strength is. And it speaks to you into detail. Because you only start getting really, really, really successful. I'm not saying you start getting successful. I'm saying really successful when you know what your strength is. Because when you know what your strength is, then you build on it. Now, when we look at all the big companies, I'll use Apple. I'll just talk about use Apple. I know that there are other big tech companies, and I'm not trying to advertise for Apple, but I mean I find the need to talk about it. They have actually just focused their energies on what their strength is. And they're always giving it to us like we like it. They just focused it. They know what their strength is as a tech company, and they are doing so well with their focus. So I feel like we can really, really, really get successful if we find out what our strength is. Now we want to find out about your strength through the. You can go online, dial up. I don't know whether Daniel, you want to pin this up. GALLUP, gallup.com. Strength Finder, dial up, GALLUP, Strength Finder online. I mean, it's not free because you get to pay like $19 or something. I mean, because this is really a good tool and it really tells you a lot about yourself. That helps you on this journey. Because if you know what your strength is, you use it throughout your life. I mean, I've not really used it at the beginning of all this thing I'm talking about. I found it along the way. But I feel like you have an upper hand right now if you are now going to start this journey. So before you even get started, you know what your strength is and you're focusing on what your strength is because you do not want to be that person who combs a lot. Like you're just looking for something that you don't even know you're looking for. You don't even know what you're looking for. You're just combing a lot. But if you're able to know, if you know what strength you have, and you want to focus on that, you become very successful. And whatever you're doing, you get to have success over time. No, it is GALLUP.
UP. Okay.
GALLUP. GALLUP. Strength Finder. Dial app Strength Finder. Just put that there. I'm sure if people type it, it will come up. Just that it is not for free, it is not cheap. But if you're able to spend a little bit on you, because then you're adding value to yourself. Because in your statement of purpose and things like that, you would need to shine light on some of these things. You will need to let them know you know what your strength is. You need to let them know you know what you're good at. You need to let them know you know how you can focus your energies. But sometimes we cannot just tell by looking at ourselves in the mirror what our strength is. And sometimes it will take you a lifetime. If you are fortunate, you can tell some of it. But these two, I find it incredibly useful. You need it. So if you're able to go in, put your info there, spend a little bit of money, find what your strength is, use it in your writing, your statements of purposes, and make your statements of purpose unique. Don't copy and paste someone's statements of purpose. You can get inspiration from people, okay, but tell a story, tell your own story that is so unique that when your admittance read, you know that this is unique and this is something we've not seen before, and this is a real thing. Yeah. Because I find that people copy and paste people's statements of purpose, and it doesn't work. So,
Okay. Thank you very much for all the information you've shared. I'm sure all our viewers are enlightened and now they know what to do and what not to do. And the most important thing is that getting the recommendation letters from the right people, networking with the right people, building a rapport with people you work with, so that you never know when they become your door openers for you. So,
exactly.
yeah, okay. Thank you, Patricia, for your time, and would like to say bye bye to all our viewers and join us next week, same time next week. We will be having.
I've seen one question that I want to address. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Let me.
So, if you look at my CV, it's it has different segments, and there's one whole segment for all the conferences and things I've attended. And I've attended quite a number of conferences in Kenya, in Sierra Leone, in Spain, in Germany, England, US. So you see how over time I've just had to build all this. So I mean, if you are an admitter, would you not accept me on your program? With all these things are coming. So just make it do something. I mean, add value to yourself. So have a whole section where you can put all conferences you have attended. Have a section for voluntary work, community service, all that, because they are looking for a unique individual who has a lot of versatility. But if you do not have versatility, you just have your GPA, you don't have anything else, you do not know your strength, nothing, it's going to be so hard. So please add value, add value, add value, keep adding value, and build your networks, build your networks, build your networks.
Okay. Prince is asking, are you on Twitter?
I'm not active on Twitter. I'm just very active on Instagram.
Okay.
I think Instagram is a place to hit me up. And LinkedIn, if you send me a message on LinkedIn, yes. LinkedIn, Instagram.
Yeah, so Prince, you can reach her on Instagram, which is Tricia_Chira, and also on LinkedIn with Patricia Acheampong. So if you have any information you'd want her to relay to you, should gladly do that. Okay. So thank you all for making time with us, and would like to close a curtain on this one. So we have another one coming up next week. So we'll share the flyers, keep the notification on, subscribe to the channel, and so that you'll be aware when the next talk is going to happen. So
someone is asking if they would ask you to show your certificate. Yes, so I know that from tech, what they do is you have your original certificate and you have ones you can photocopy and start certifying some of it. So you're going to be sending those certified ones to the school, and the school has a way of verifying. So please don't send a fraudulent certificate. You're going to just make your situation worse, and you're just going to not give yourself a chance at all. Take in whatever you have and add value to yourself and be confident and go for it. You don't have to put effort against it.
okay, so thank you all, and would like to. Oh, we have Barbara joining us.
Remember at the boyfriend's house.
Okay, so Barbara, thankfully you joined us in that closing, so we'll probably give you the closing remarks.
We
Unmute yourself.
can't hear you. Unmute yourself.
You are muted. You are muted. Yeah.
I said I joined late, so I can't conclude. So you guys just give your final words.
Okay, so yeah, we've given the final words. Thought you wanted to add something before we close the curtain. Okay, so thank you all for tuning in. So join us same time next week for another episode of a different discussion. So we out. Bye.
Thank you for coming. Thank you all.